the I'm a Fan of podcast, music, comedy, and more.
Nathan Mongol Wells. What's up, dude?
And I'm very happy to be here. So
Thank
thanks
you for
thanks for having
Jinx,
me.
right?
Yeah, right. I'm glad we're both,
Well, we found out we live in a similar neighborhood. We drive similar cars.
We're
it's only
basically
natural.
neighbors.
Yeah. But no, thanks for being here. Thanks for taking the time. There's many things to talk about, but first of all, thanks for this sweet swag, by the way.
of course, yeah.
I feel like I just went to a Ottoman Turks convention and
Right, yeah. I should have had it in a little plastic bag.
No, dude, this is great. But dude, is I saw a post today. Is it 15 years today?
Today, yeah.
Wow.
I know.
We didn't even plan that.
I didn't know about it when we set this thing up.
I saw that picture.
Paul, our drummer, he's very good at digging into just whatever miscellany on the internet. He can find it.
By the way, real quick, Paul is a very mysterious character to me.
Yeah.
But I really like him. He's in Ottoman Turks. I saw he does drums for Fishboy.
Yep.
And it's like, this guy's part of these cool things.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't really know him that well.
He is a sweetheart. We've known each other since we were in 7th grade.
Okay.
We went to the same school. And yeah, he's just a really nice guy who kind of is makes himself present at the right time.
Dude,
for the right things.
I mean, that's half of the importance of making anything artistic, right? It's just the people that are actually there when you're trying to create something.
You have to be present. We've said it. I mean, obviously we're here talking about the band being around for 15 years, and half the opportunities I feel like we've gotten, we always say it's just from still doing it and being there, and ready to say yes, and hopefully being good at the same time.
Yeah.
So.
15 years. That's wild to say, right?
Yeah, it is.
How many things in your life have you done for 15 years at this point?
Nothing.
That's
think.
it, right?
I mean, I've been friends with Paul longer than that. So,
right.
Yeah, that's
but I mean,
it.
a job, a marriage,
not there
anything.
Yet.
You know what I mean? It's incredible, man.
Yeah.
I was trying to think really hard of my first experience with Ottoman Turks, and I couldn't peg down the year, so I was hoping maybe you could help me. But y'all have probably done it multiple times. But the very first time was at a old school, pre-pandemic Deep Ellum Arts Festival.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
Back then. Do you have any idea when? Y'all have probably done several of those at this point, right?
Paul could tell you, I'm sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember if we did one or two. It might have just been one. I think we were supposed to play one year.
Okay.
It got rained out, and they're like, we'll get you on next year, guaranteed. You don't have to, send in your stuff. And we're like, great. This is the most practiced at that time that we'd ever been. This must have been 2014-ish.
Because I believe it was because 3 of y'all in the band have done solo albums now. Mm-hmm. I believe it was before any of y'all did any solo work, right?
I think so.
Yeah. So it would have been somewhat, I thought, that was at the very beginning. But then when you hear 15 years, it's like,
well, we spent a long time in the garage trying to fit, really teenagers, high school students having fun learning what we like in music and how to play it better. And so there were a lot of those 15 years that was just sort of spent spooling up. And then it all kind of started to come together. We put out an EP that we recorded up in Denton around 2014, 2015. So that was us trying to take it more seriously and figure out, how do you do this music thing? And part of that was we got to play the Deep Ellum Arts Fest.
Help me do the math. What was 15 years ago from today? What year was that?
2009.
2009. So it was about 5 years before y'all recorded something.
Yeah, we did. We recorded with Salim Nurallah, actually, another local hero, in 2011. Mm-hmm. And it was, I think we could all tell it was a little undercooked at that time, but we had the songs.
It was a first recording.
Yeah, exactly. We had, so it kind of had all spurred off of this other band that Paul and I were in, and my sister, who was in Ottoman Turks at the time too, called the Hot Tickets. It was our first band, high school band, and there were 2 other people in it, and it was a little bit more, a little bit more baked at that point. So, that project kind of felt more solid. And Ottoman Turks, we were still trying to figure it out, but we're like, hey, we know Salim. We already did a record with him for Hot Tickets. Let's do it again. Really funny to listen to now. I think it's somewhere on SoundCloud.
So it's out there to listen to.
Well, it doesn't have the name. It's I think actually, oddly enough, it's Paul's SoundCloud. It's the only thing on there.
So there's a group of close friends.
Yeah.
Get this access.
I could share it if you ever wanted to listen.
If you buy enough merch, you can get the SoundCloud.
So we did that, and that was just it was kind of hey, we're here, it's a thing. Yeah. And then in 2014, we were like, let's try this for real, and
How many songs was it then?
5, I think.
5 songs.
Most of which ended up on our first record, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Later on, what we call our first record, the first real one.
Because that was a 2019 release?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you would have probably you would have been recording it in 2018 and release it like 2019, right?
Something like that. It all moved pretty fast. But yeah, it came out August 23rd, 2019. So the show that we're playing for the 15th anniversary happens to be one day after 5 years from the first record. So,
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Where's the show going to be?
Granada Theatre.
It's going to be great.
Yeah.
What was the last time y'all played there for an album release?
I think we opened
I remember
for,
some rowdy show that y'all did there.
Yes. Well,
and like, you've been in this local scene long enough, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
there's this weird thing with musicians in any scene where it's like, even when something's kind of awesome, they're always a little jealous that like someone had an awesome thing and it wasn't them.
Yeah, well,
right?
That's the nature of being an artist,
Sure.
I think, probably.
But that was one of the few times I remember where multiple different bands were like, that was a really cool show.
Oh, yeah?
And
Well.
it was, and I won't drop any names because these are all nice people.
Yeah.
But also, like, artists are inherently like downers.
Yeah,
right.
that's true.
You're like, hey, that's
You're
awesome,
fighting
and
that
people
all
are
the
always like,
time.
I mean, it's pretty good.
Yeah,
right.
right.
So it was a couple of these people that were always a downer about things, always had a criticism, and they
Right.
were like, that was a great live show.
Well, it means a lot, yeah.
It seems like you get a lot of praise from your peers, which is great.
I'm thankful for it.
Sorry, I'm not going to make you say that.
No. Well, if that is true, we try and pay it forward too. There's a lot of people out there that we really love and love playing with, and love going to their shows too. But yeah, I mean, the Granada was like our holy grail, and still is, honestly. Like, I still can't believe that we're playing there.
I think the only venue that rivals it, and I don't consider one to be better than the other, is Kessler.
Yeah, for
Just
sure.
something
Those are the
about-
two.
So those two places are just magical.
They
you
are.
know?
It's special.
And,
They're both special in their own ways.
yeah, and I love how they're run very differently, but they seem to be perfect for each neighborhood that they're in.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I'm
there's
saying?
an Oak Cliff thing about Kessler,
Yeah.
and there's a Greenville Avenue sort of thing
Yeah.
about Granada, and
Yeah, and I mean, it's fascinating that they are surviving the way they are. They shouldn't. You know,
Yeah,
they really
well,
shouldn't. But
I know.
I think it's because both of them focused on their neighborhoods
Yeah.
so much. Like they are neighborhood venues.
yeah,
you
they
know?
they have a fan base much the way that the bands they book have a fan base. I think which is
I don't know how they pulled it off, but they always get these incredible shows, you know, and I can tell just from your writing and playing, it's like you have an eclectic style,
Yeah, well.
eclectic taste anyway.
right.
And so it's like at that theater, we got to see a punk rock band called the Distillers,
Yeah.
and then we also got to see Willie Nelson,
Right.
you know,
yeah.
and it's like that's what a real venue should be,
Yeah.
you know, and
It's also how I enjoy my music, you know. Like
Exactly.
it's not like one thing that I want to see all the time. I want to see a variety, and I enjoy a variety. So the places that cater to that, you know, I'm obviously gonna keep showing up. And
yeah. Did you notice when Keanu Reeves passed through?
yes, I did.
It's like,
yeah.
what are the odds that you're, and it's like, I'm so bummed that it's like, how did I not know?
Yeah, I know.
He was in a
I was
band.
too late for that,
And it's
yeah.
like, honestly, it's like, I love Keanu Reeves, but, you know, the band's fine.
Right.
It's fine.
I'm glad he's having fun. you
But
know?
I would have gladly bought a ticket to watch Keanu have fun playing
Right,
bass
playing
in his
bass.
band.
Of
Yeah.
course, he's a bassist. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, man. But that's going to be such a great show.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Who's on
work-
it? Who's on it with you? Have y'all decided?
Well, yeah, we haven't announced yet.
Oh, okay. We don't have to do it here then.
Well, no, I mean, we also got to lock it down and make sure. But yeah, we're going to have special guests, friends of ours,
Sure.
local industry folks that people would recognize and would be excited to see. And we're doing since, like you mentioned, we have our solo projects. We're doing showcasing those as well.
As you
just
should,
short.
man.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's Turkathon.
Well, and the three of you guys, you know, it's always so fascinating. I feel like the bands such as yourselves, where you have, you know, clearly there's strong personalities within the band.
Right.
And it shows in your solo projects, right? And the bands that I think tend to break up and have a lot of issues are the ones that don't appreciate, like, it's fine to
Yeah.
have those side projects, to
Absolutely.
do that. That not all of these are Ottoman Turk songs, and that
Yeah.
it's good for you to go do your thing and then come back here, and this is kind of like it's almost like your home base, you know?
Right. I mean, yeah, it's at the end of the day, you know, it's your buddies, so you want them to be as fulfilled as possible in
Yeah.
everything they do. But yeah, especially artistically, musically, and that's a big part of it. And it's always been a big part of it, I think, is having Turks and then everything else that everybody else does. So.
Who was the first in the band to bring up that they were working on solo stuff?
Josh
Josh.
Walker.
Yeah.
He put out his first shortly before, I guess, we started working on the Turks one. But that was kind of our introduction to the State Fair Records people, because they'd been in talks for a while about doing that.
Did y'all know he had stuff on the side always?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always kind of coexisted. Song swaps and things. It's hitting a lot of the local places was just our dream. So like playing at All Good and some of the song swaps there and stuff like that. So we always had these songs that we're developing, and a lot of mine are Ottoman Turks songs, but then I also had these others that didn't fit with the Turks thing. And Josh had his, and Billy was working on his, and so yeah, we always knew. And then
I was curious if there was ever a moment where someone was like, hey, I got this thing, and I don't want y'all to be weird about me releasing it, but it seems like y'all kind of knew what everybody was doing.
And I worked on those records with Josh. I played on the records, and then Billy played on mine on bass, and so it's always kind of been symbiotic as well as separate.
So what's holding Paul back? When's his album coming out?
We talk about it all the time.
He's got to do something,
just
man.
Something, yeah. It doesn't even have to be good. We just need something.
Dude,
from
we could
him.
just do like a slam poetry album or something if we need to.
That would be amazing,
right?
I think he's got some feelings he needs to get out.
Think of all the repressed. Being the drummer, you don't get to say
he's
it.
Way back there, just looking at our rear ends the whole time.
We'll make him do it.
Yeah. And hopefully he can get something together before Turkathon, and he can open up the set.
That would be
snap.
Right. That would be just imagine it, right? Like single spotlight, center stage.
Oh, I'm crying already.
He just comes out.
I've got chills. Yeah, the sky is blue.
Yeah,
and I am too.
I mean, that might actually be kind of a killer opening.
I would love it. Yeah, I'll talk to him about it.
I saw Jack White in Oklahoma, and it was at this really. I think it was like a field house. It was something to do with the college up there. I can't remember exactly what kind of building it was, but it was not like a traditional venue. Yeah. And
sounds sweet already.
It was cool. And, giant curtain closed on the stage, and like a manager for the tour or something came out, and he was just eating out of a bowl of guacamole, chips and guacamole. And we were just telling people like, hey, no photography, keep your phones off, all this kind of stuff.
That's
and
cool.
Here's Jack White. It was like the
casual, but also
But something about a guy walking out with a bowl of chips and guacamole was just very like everyone just. What are we doing here?
Yeah. Performance art, really.
I'm just saying we could do this with Paul, man. It could be something.
I'm sure. Well, he does. He's allergic to guacamole, I think. But we could figure something out.
We'll do something.
Yeah. I guess we wouldn't want to copy Jack White's thing anyway.
No. Well, what I found out later, they released his rider. Like somebody thought they were being like sneaky and hurtful by releasing his rider. And that was one of the things in there was chips and guacamole.
Nice.
And I think it was just one of those old school, like, this is how we know you read it.
Yeah,
right.
You always got to have that tester thing on there, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But, it was a cool show. Do you remember your very first Ottoman Turks show?
Yes. Yeah, I do, actually.
Was it the full lineup that you have now?
No. We've had so my sister was part of the band for a good while.
What was she doing?
Playing keys.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. And it was not as raucous as it is now. It was a little bit more folky, I guess. But yeah, we were at the Door, I guess.
Yeah.
It was Prophet
which version of the Door?
It was like when Prophet Bar kind of was in the back there. Well, I guess that was always
so the
there,
version
but,
that was down by like the 7-Eleven, like Good Latimer area?
Former Gypsy Tea Room.
Yeah.
Which is now a parking lot.
Don't get me started.
Yeah, I know.
Because the Prophet Bar and the Door, before that it was the Gypsy Tea Room, and I can't remember what they used to call the small room behind it.
I don't know if that was always a Prophet Bar or there's something else.
But I feel like the Prophet Bar, that was my favorite style of like Deep Ellum venue.
Yeah, it was we
great.
loved it. I mean, they gave us a place to play when they certainly probably shouldn't have, but we played there a bunch.
Yeah. I was lucky enough in some bands that didn't deserve to play on that stage to play up there, and there was something special about that room. I don't know what it is right now. Is it anything at the moment?
I don't know. I don't think it is.
Like you said, I know the one side's a parking lot,
right?
But I think the Prophet Bar, the brick building's still there.
That whole little strip is still there. So yeah, maybe there's hope.
It's weird how just being on that other side of Good Latimer makes it struggle more,
right?
And you can just walk right there. I don't know what it is. But that little block of buildings has always kind of struggled.
Right.
Even though there's a giant parking lot right there. It's super easy access.
Yeah. It's kind of away from all the hustle and bustle of everything else, which you would think is kind of a plus.
Yeah.
When you can't find parking for anything, just down Elm or whatever. But
yeah. I mean, there's something, I don't know if it's just because all those other bands that rolled through there, but that smaller room, the Prophet Bar specifically. And I'd seen great shows in the Gypsy Tea Room or the Door, whichever version it was.
Yeah.
Great shows, but something about that shotgun style, solid
classic.
brick walls on each side of you. Like when Charlie Crockett's In the Night album came out.
Oh yeah.
He was playing the Dallas Observer Music Awards when that album was either about to release or had just released, right when he was really kind of starting to pop off. And he came in there and just did this smoking set on that stage.
I can imagine. He's quite the player.
Yeah. And it's before, now he's leaned very heavily into country.
Right.
This was when he still had more of that
like R&B kind of old school.
Yeah, it's hard to I don't even know how to describe
soul almost.
that record.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm happy for him. He's doing well.
Yeah.
But that In the Night blend of sounds that he had, I think, is still my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, he started, I feel like I was listening to a couple of records actually on Friday, but to bring some like horn sections back into the music. And I'm like, I like this.
On his new stuff?
Yeah, on some of the new records.
Well,
of course, he puts out like 3 years.
I was going to say, the problem with him now is I can't keep up.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, good for you, man. And,
Yeah.
and everything I see, people love what he's doing. So it's like, do your thing. But I feel like here in Dallas, specifically, we know like there's more layers to Charlie.
Right. Yeah.
It's
we got it first.
I want to see a couple more of those layers. But,
yeah. I always kind of had a beef with him for a long time because knowing, seeing him come up here in Dallas, and then I never heard him claim it, but he's started to now again. So I'm like, all right, all is forgiven. He just put out a record that's like Visions of Dallas or something. So I'm like, yeah.
Especially that first EP. I never really got to chat with him much. And when I started this, he was already too big to kind of reach out. But that first, I don't even know if it was an EP or if it was a record, but we went down to Freeman.
Yeah.
Before they had that extension with the big stage, right? The little room.
Yep.
Which
I used to work there.
I mean,
way back in the day.
Yeah, so Yeah. Well, and that's part of what made that bar cool is because you could go in there, and a lot of times it was a musician bartending.
Right. Yeah. Ryan from the Room Sounds was there for years.
Yeah. And those places are so important, right? To the
right.
scene.
Oh, yeah.
But I remember my wife and we walked in, and I told her, I was like, yeah, there's this guy. I think he's pretty good. I've been hearing a little buzz. I don't know anything about him, but he's playing at this place, and we always like going there, so let's go see it. And, for those who don't know, it's like this little tiny pocket corner stage.
Yeah, a little triangle.
Worst PA, worst lighting.
Right.
It's everything you want in a dive bar.
Yeah.
And bonus points, it's right next door to the other cool dive bar, Adair's.
Yeah, Adair's.
And so you can literally just go back and forth if you want and check out great music.
That's part of the fun, yeah.
Right. And he was in there, and I remember he was just saying he had that little album. It was the one with Trinity River on it.
Yeah.
And he's like, give what you want, just take it, whatever you want, And I'll show you later. We have this great picture from there of, my wife was like, yeah, he's really good. He might have some potential,
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And then a couple years later, he did his thing. And it was really cool. And
Josh has toured with him, and I got to play in the band on one of those one of those tours, and then I TM'd another one, and he's a super nice guy. His band's super nice.
Yeah.
And people are going crazy for it.
What are the crowds like at a Charlie Crockett show?
It's kind of all over the place, older, younger, but they are like fanatics. Like they love it. I mean, they're all in. And it was always a really cool. And we were like middle of nowhere most of the time, Lawrence, Kansas, and I mean, anybody from Lawrence, Kansas, it's not. I know there's stuff there. We had a great time. There's a Granada up there. That's where we played actually.
And so you were playing with Josh when you were doing that?
Yeah.
What is the initial reaction with a guy like Josh when he's an opener?
His voice can sell people from the first note, I'd never seen him really struggle with that, honestly. It's always, and being paired with something like Charlie Crockett, it kind of makes sense in a way. And people are ready for something good, and so when they get a glimpse of that, they're like, yeah, sure, I'm in for this too. So sold a lot of merch,
Yeah. I mean, it gives you hope when you see that you can like sit there and play a song and people care, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, people love to cry. People love the sad song, especially in country music. So I think and he's got some great ones. So
yeah, I mean that kind of stuff. Hearing you say that kind of stuff. That's why I don't believe in this whole like short attention span thing people are talking about.
Yeah, it's a good question.
I think people will pay attention
Yeah.
if you give them something to pay attention to that's worth it, right?
Yeah, it's got to be something exciting or different or whatever. And you have to believe it, I think, too. If it seems authentic, yeah.
I think that's the bigger thing, right? It's like, because like Ottoman Turks, your solo work, it's like there's like rowdy, raucous things on there, but I don't think you're doing it to sell a song.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I think you were just like, I enjoy playing this music when I hear it.
It's, I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's always been for lack of a better term, for me, like I write because I love to write, and I perform because I really love to perform, and so yeah, I mean, hopefully somebody else enjoys it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That genre of music, it's like we're in this era right now of like buzzword central when people write those songs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and you gotta sell it on TikTok, and yeah. it's a different scene these days, but
you know how I was revisiting everything, and that's what was making me think of kind of like the, because it's Ottoman Turks, you with your solo work, Josh with his solo work, Billy's been on the show, there is this kind of nucleus with you guys. And we're not going to leave out Paul. He just needs to get his poetry out there.
Right.
But there is this kind of nucleus of there's a genuine feel to all of it.
Yeah.
That's right. Like, I think anyone could listen to it, and they may go, it's not for me.
Right.
But I don't think anyone would go, it sucks.
Well, I hope not. Yeah.
Right? I think I think people can feel it. And I could feel it. My wife's family vacations in Surfside, Texas, down by Galveston.
Yeah.
And I was just there over the weekend, and I came back on a Sunday. And when I was driving back, I was like, I'm going to revisit the albums on the drive back, right? I'm just front to back, one through. And that's when I realized, I was like, God, these guys are really into it. Because I looked down, and all of a sudden on that first album, I'm doing like 95. Yeah. I'm just going left lane.
Quick,
yeah, dude, I just have like an energy drink, some beef jerky, and cranked up Ottoman Turks.
It's good driving music. That's what we've always said.
Let me look at the track list.
You got to be a little bit careful with the speed you're doing, I think.
Yeah, it was specifically, let me find them again.
Highway Patrol hates this record.
It was definitely OCP and Hands Tied and Mas Amigos. It's like I would look down when those songs were on. I was like, Jesus, dude, back off the gas.
Yeah. We like it, fast and loud for the most part. So.
Yeah, but like I come from I love punk rock music.
Yeah, same.
And it's like, it's like you can play fast, but if it's not what you want to do, like if you're playing it because you think people want to hear that rowdiness,
right?
You feel the phony through it. The whole thing,
There's nothing worse in punk rock than a poser, right?
Yeah. What was your music when you were coming up? We already talked about it being broad, but
yeah, I mean, there was a lot. Green Day was like the first band that I loved and I was obsessed with.
Had to be the Dookie album, right?
American Idiot is what introduced me to it because it was around that time when that had come out, and asked my parents for an electric guitar for Christmas. Like I had been playing like Spanish classical. They had me in lessons.
Okay.
And I was like, this is what I want to do. So I got a Fender Stratocaster and went from there. But yeah, The Clash, Talking Heads, like a lot of that old the punk stuff that I still listen to and love.
Was the Strat because Billy Joe played it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I got a black one with like a white star on it. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. But and then it kind of went from there. The Strokes was huge. My first band, Ottoman Turks, first band, Hot Tickets, before Ottoman Turks, basically started as a Strokes cover band. And we, you learn a lot from just playing other people's songs.
Yeah, big time. Especially a band like the Strokes.
Yeah.
It's one of those, man, they seem simple.
Right.
They seem like overly simple.
And then you sit down.
You start really listening, and it's like, he's one of those singers, too. I was just talking to somebody about Roy Orbison.
Oh, yeah.
Roy Orbison, the lead singer in the Strokes. What's his name? I can't
Julian
remember.
Casablancas.
Yeah. He's the same way. All his parts sound real easy, like this droney voice. I can sing this, right?
Yeah.
And then you actually start trying to sing with it, and you realize there's this nuance.
Yeah.
And you're just like, damn, this guy's
you can jump the octave, and there's a lot of, great melodies, first of all, very memorable. And then...
and the volume of songs that they wrote
yeah.
that were that good.
Yeah, I know. Those first three records, pretty much front to back for all of them.
I came in late on them. And, I heard the songs, the hits, and, I was like, yeah, these are good, these are good, these are good. And I was in a band that was recording up in Denton. Mm-hmm. And while everybody was setting up, the sound engineer was playing... I can't even remember which album it was, but it was a song "Gratisfaction." Okay, yeah. You know which album? I think it's is it Angles or something?
Yeah,
like that?
Angles. That was the fourth record.
Yeah. And but the guitar parts in that was dun 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 dun, dun and he's playing it over his beautiful sound system.
It sounds good. Yeah,
yeah.
You can hear the nuance
and
there.
You're just like, who's this? And he's like, oh, it's the Strokes, man. And it's like, I didn't know they were this good,
right?
And he starts showing me more songs and diving in on these B-sides, and then all of a sudden, you realize their volume of work is pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Because they seem almost like a pop band at first.
Yeah.
And you realize like, oh, no. It's
There's
deeper.
a lot going on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as far as I understand, they're like very meticulous about how everything that goes into it. So like they've got it buttoned up, which really shows. I think like that song is 2 minutes and 37 seconds because it's supposed to be that long, and the solos are all very specific and intentional. It wasn't just like, all right, you go riff on that or whatever, which was a big influence to us or me kind of growing up. And then I discovered Tom Waits, and everything kind of snowballed from there.
Yeah,
so,
that's a different feel.
Yeah, yeah. I got everything that he ever recorded and just slowly worked through. Yeah,
man, I think it was like a SNL thing where he comes out and he's like weirdly smoking a cigarette. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about? And he's hanging on his amps or something.
Yeah,
yeah, he's a character.
He
man.
is a character. Yeah.
What drew you to Tom Waits? Because he's a real unique character.
The Turks original guitarist before Josh joined the band, burned Swordfish Trombones, the record, Tom Waits record, as I think kind of a joke. Like I remember we were all standing around in the den or wherever, listening to it and like kind of laughing, like listen to this guy's voice, it's crazy. But then something like, I don't know, I think the idiosyncratic nature of it kind of flipped the switch in my brain, and I was like, actually, can I borrow that Burn CD? And it, just kind of fell in love with just how strange and odd, but then also intentionally put together all that stuff is, and I went from there. So like I loved that record, listened to it over and over again, and sort of went to the next one that came out after that, Rain Dogs. Loved that, and I was like, I guess I love this guy, and so then I got like everything, and just kind of for a whole, I don't know, year, just that's about all I listened to.
How old were you when you were listening to Tom Waits?
This was shortly before, probably 17, 18, something like that.
That's not the typical 16, age 17, people listen 18. To Tom Waits,
I don't have a good explanation for it. But
were you still in high school at 17?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so were you like trying to turn other like high school kids onto this, and they're just like, what is he listening to?
Yeah. I even once I got to college, I had this, one of my friends, she was like a big metalhead and loved all that stuff. And I was like, hey, listen, like, she's like, what are you listening to? I gave her, and it was Tom Waits, and she's like, this is too hard even for me. Like that voice was not doing it for me.
Yeah.
But the one thing, like this is kind of the impetus, I think, for Ottoman Turks in many ways. We were having a Star Wars marathon in high school, and this was still back in the age of Blockbuster.
Oh yeah.
So we went to, we had to get the next movie. So Billy and I went to the Blockbuster in Casa Linda that used to be there. And on the way, I was like, hey, listen to this song, like I'm really into it right now. And he literally stayed in the car and just listened to like all the whatever else was queued up from Tom Waits while I got the DVD or the DVD. And by the time I made it back to the car, he's like, yeah, I think I get this. Like,
that's cool, man.
It. So we've always shared that love. He's got a great Tom Waits t-shirt. I don't. A little jealous of that, but
yeah, man, that's how you know you love it, because that's not like, I mean, he obviously is known, but it's not popular music.
Yeah, right.
Like the average person now, when you show that, you're probably showing them for the first time.
Yeah. A lot of people knew like his first record, which was a lot more like singer-songwriter-y. Like I had a girlfriend, and her dad was like, "Oh, I love Tom Waits," and he just only knew that one record.
Oh, okay.
And I was much more of a fan of the later stuff.
Yeah, he's definitely a musician's musician.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah. There's something about it. My mom was a gospel singer when I was a kid, and it's kind of got that. And Billy's mom is a jazz singer, really incredible. So I think there's something in those like old school, I don't know if you call it roots music or just that kind of like American songbook type lexicon that we both were familiar with and enjoyed, that Tom Waits touches on in a way that very few other people do. If I tried to explain why I like it.
Yeah, that's a good explanation. I don't meet enough people who, one, even know who Tom Waits is.
Right.
It's only musicians that I talk to,
Which is a shame. Everybody go listen to Tom Waits.
But he does come up. It's like, are you familiar with the band Against Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Laura Jane Grace was talking about him.
Oh, really?
In her book.
That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, like, he's kind of in the realm of Bob Dylan in terms of, the body of work and the amount of respect, but he's just a little bit below. Like, he's out of that popular eye, You can go to most people and they've heard of Bob Dylan, even if they've never heard a song. But for some reason, Tom Waits, maybe he's just a little rougher,
Yeah, maybe because he came like started putting music out, I guess partially based on just how old he was, but like a little bit after that.
Was he older? Is that?
He's a little younger than Bob Dylan, I think.
Oh,
maybe
okay.
10 years-ish or something like that. And so his first record was like 77 or something like that. And so
he was like a
kind of
little after the folk.
So maybe it would have hit harder, had it been a little bit earlier, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Isn't it crazy how much of this business, like this music business, it's just timing?
It is timing.
Just timing.
Yeah.
It's weird, man.
Yeah.
I mean, because even like even your bandmate Josh, it's like there's not a lot of good explanation of why that first record just
Took
hit,
off. Yeah, right.
But it's like if you try to do it, you can't do it.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But if you
that can't be the reason why you do it either. You can't count on anything. You just do it because you love it and hope somebody listens to it. So
that's a hard lesson to tell anybody.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough I got to record I got to produce a comedy special for a local comic, and we're real happy with it. We like it, but that's what we talked about is like, hey man, we have to really appreciate that no one may enjoy this.
Right.
Like no one, first of all, nobody, maybe no one will watch it.
right.
Second of all, they may watch it and just not like
Yeah.
the material.
Yeah, comedy is especially subjective, I think.
Yeah. And this guy in particular, he talked about some more dark material.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's from here in Dallas, and his mom was like incarcerated with drug addictions. Dad's not around. He also had his own meth addictions that broke up his marriage, and they have a
That's
kid
tough
together.
stuff, yeah.
Ha ha ha. Right.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, a good comic,
Yeah, but it's kind of like music. It took him years to
Right.
develop this, hour of
Yeah.
material, and now we're talking to each other about how to best present it.
right.
Much like music, and you just like those were the talks we had. It's like, man, you just need to make sure you
Right.
are 100% happy with this.
Yeah.
Because if you hate it, you made all these compromises,
Right.
and you don't get famous.
Yeah.
That sucks.
What are you left
dude.
with? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, but if you love it and nobody likes it, it's like, well, at least you love it.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
and
you're happy.
and you got to do it. You
Mm-hmm.
had the experience of making it, and you have something that you can hold in your hands,
Yeah.
or show people, or whatever. You just
Mm-hmm.
because much like music, I think if you don't do it, then you end up regretting that for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things I was going to talk to you about. 15 years in, do you think, because this now becomes commonplace in your life, right? You're a musician, you play songs, you play
Right.
shows, you record things. But do you ever sit back and think about how it feels like there's a lot of people doing that because of social media,
Right.
but really there's not a lot of people that take those chances
Yeah.
of just making something,
Right.
right? That artistic endeavor. And do you ever think about how fortunate you are that you recognize like, hey, I can do this. I can
Yeah.
make this versus those people who are just kind of too scared to make anything.
Yeah, I mean, certainly. I'm very thankful for whatever drive that was. I mean, a lot of it was starting very young and just being like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, you can do this. And then trying to figure out how to do it better and make it work better along the way. But yeah, I mean, I would advocate for anybody who has any sort of desire.
But think how many people at like year 7 or 8 are like,
Yeah.
I'm not famous. I'm not going to do this.
Right. Yeah. That's a constant question, I think, even in my head. It's like, is all the sacrifice and the work that it is, and trying to sustain your regular life,
Yeah.
and your friends and your family. And is it all worth it to try and still do this? And, I think the idea of making the choice to stop doing it would be far sadder,
Yeah. I mean, don't you think about if you were like, I'm done.
Yeah. I have thought about it.
Yeah, I know. And
like last week.
Well, first of all, I don't think you really love any project you're in if you haven't thought like, fuck this thing.
Yeah. Yeah, then you haven't worked on it, right?
Yeah, if you haven't thought like, I'm going to quit, I'm just going to do a regular straight-laced thing for the rest of my life. It's easier. I don't have to like you said, I don't have to sacrifice time and money and
Right.
relationships. But then you like get out of your anger and you're like, no, we're not going to quit that.
The other thing's worse.
Yeah, man, it is.
I've thought about it. I'm like, I'd work at a desk. I could. It would be fine. But I would still want to be doing this on the side. There's
And that desk is always going to be there, man.
right,
You
exactly.
can go to that desk anytime you
Yeah.
want.
And it won't have changed.
Yeah. And I mean, you won't have like, it's got to make you feel, I mean, you've looked at this probably a ridiculous amount of times, but
Yeah.
like, if you really think about it though, it's like, you're going to die, right? And this vinyl record's going to be in somebody's vinyl collection. It's going to get passed down to a kid or something.
Right.
Somebody's going to listen to this for a very long time. Years and years and years and years and years. And it's like, you know, we all know the issues with like streaming versus like physical media and stuff.
Right.
But knowing it's like vinyl's not cheap.
Yeah.
This stuff is so hard to make.
Yeah.
You know, and it literally breaks your bank making it. But how cool is it knowing like some stranger's going to pick it up and like check out your artwork and like flip it over and look at things and read the song title. It's so much different than just scrolling through Spotify.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And
less impactful for sure.
Yeah, and it's like that's the goal of all this, isn't it? It's like it's fun.
It is fun, yeah, and it is a strange thing to think about.
Yeah, when was the last time you really thought about it? Because it's got to get to like an autopilot for you at this point, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm constantly thinking about certain parts of the process, writing, recording, all that. Because you know, Turks, we're working on new stuff and want to get back in. I've got more stuff for the solo record or solo project that needs to happen. So that like functionally, I think, is always kind of happening. But yeah, certainly thinking about like the fact that there is a product that someone can pick up and hold and listen to, or even the fact that it still baffles me that there's anybody out there listening to it. You know, like if people order it from the State Fair Records website, which they can do, and they go all over the place, you know, and I'm like, I don't know how they heard of us. They've certainly not seen us play live. I'd love to be able to show them that, but yeah, it baffles me, and it's just the coolest thing, really.
That is the one cool thing about Spotify is when you go see the active listeners.
Yeah,
and it's like, man, that's really cool when you see that
all
there's
over the place. Yeah,
that there's people like right now at any moment I can pull it up and there's listeners right now.
Very strange.
That's incredible though.
It's
just such a weird that is the upside of it all. You just wish Spotify would just pay people. That's really all they need to do.
It's an easy solution.
If they just paid people, if they just said we don't need to make billions,
right?
We're happy making millions,
hundreds of millions.
Yeah, right. We'd all be good.
Yeah.
Speaking,
the money's there. They keep it. Yeah.
Did you watch his? I think it's the CEO. I don't know how it's structured, like if it's just the owner.
Right.
But when he was speaking in front of, he was being questioned by people, like in some sort of public forum about that. And, you know, he's trying to spin it all about like all the good we do.
Right.
And it's like, I mean, come on, man.
Yeah.
But you can tell, right? Like that's not a person who got in it for the music.
Right.
It's a business, right? And it's like, it's fine to run it as a business to a point.
Yeah.
But it's got to be about the music.
When it's not sustaining the very industry that is sustaining you, like you have to question at some point, right?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't. There's a disconnect there that it's significant. And I don't understand it from their perspective.
I mean, could you imagine they could have, you know, like a touring festival once a year.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Went around the country with like these top artists that they chose by like, you listen to them. They, you know, here's what we did.
Yeah, and
it's
they've
like,
got those analytics. They would know.
Oh, they could crush it.
Yeah.
And I mean, because if you think about what guys like, well, Jack White, for instance, it's like what he's done with Third Man Records.
Yeah.
That's a music lover, right?
Right.
There's a lot of bad business decisions there.
Yeah.
But it ends
sure.
up working out really well. And so knowing how much more money Spotify has access to,
right?
What they could do for music.
It's a little alarming.
I mean, in like the levels of like, it doesn't have to be big tours and big arena shows. Like you could do small club shows with up and comers and like boost all these things, you know. It could be way, way cooler. And you just wonder, like, what's it going to take for a person like that to switch their mindset, you know? Yeah,
it's a good question. I mean, it not being sustainable, like, something's got to give at some point, you'd think. I don't know.
It's got to give.
It's like the TikTok stuff we're talking about and Spotify and all that. Like, it's definitely, you know, you read a lot of things about how sort of negative it is for the artist, and it's impossible to sustain yourself without, you know, really significantly putting yourself into like TikTok and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But I feel like we're, you know, everything changes all the time. And the industry now is different than it was 10 years ago, is different than it was 10 years before that. And, you know, in the next 10 years, who knows what's going to happen. So I guess I generally try to look at things optimistically, but I feel like at some point, you know, there's going to be, I mean, hopefully it doesn't just keep getting worse. But at that point, like, people, like, we're talking about the authenticity, like, people want to see things that they think are good, that are real. And if we're choking that out at some point, you know, it's got to sneak around somehow.
Right. Yeah. I just think about, I get worried. Maybe it's just here locally, and like maybe you have more knowledge about it than me, but it's like I get worried locally that, the spots where you used to come up are going away.
Yeah. Oh, I do worry about that. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So like 15 years ago, it's like, what were some of the early venues you guys were playing?
Well, we played...
or maybe not even 15, but maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah. Well, we played just about anywhere that would have us. And there were a lot of sort of smaller, medium-sized places. Looking back at 15 years and just going through things, and there was like a place called The Lounge on Elm, which I think is a nightclub now. And obviously there's going to be turnover and fluctuation and stuff, but instead it's kind of just like all the places are disappearing. And I'll have friends and acquaintances from out of town who are like, well, when we come to Dallas, like, where do we play at? And I'm like, double wide or 3 links.
It's getting a little tighter these days.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I love both those venues. It's not a bad choice.
But those are places that care about the music.
Yeah.
That's the difference, right?
Always, yeah.
And I think it's a whole industry thing, right? It's like when you have these big ticket companies clamping down on venues, when you have these big streaming sites clamping down on streams, and they control who hears what, rather than, hey, what's this new low stream thing that are, I don't even know what you call them, but it's like, shouldn't there be people at Spotify who just fucking listen to music and go, damn, this is killer. Yeah. Nobody's heard of it. Let's throw it in on this playlist. And, like foster it, like you have a farm system, right? And
all those big artists that eventually end up playing like the Ticketmaster, the Live Nation, that they got to come from somewhere. They got to start somewhere. So there's a very important like middle area that is being choked out. That I don't know what to do with that.
No, and it's like
we see it here in Dallas for sure.
I get worried for the like the path, right? We used to have this healthy path of these are open mics, right?
Right.
No matter how bad you are, just the courage to get up on stage, let's do it, and people are like, hell yeah, there you go.
Right.
And
that's where you start.
That's where you start, and then from there, it's like, all right, we got you like an opening acoustic set on this shitty bar show. Right. Best of luck, right?
Yeah.
And then
one of 5.
Yeah, and then from there, it's like maybe you learn some covers and you start doing those, afternoon patios at a restaurant or something, and
get better.
Yeah, and then maybe you snag a residency somewhere and get a little better and better.
Right.
And thankfully, the places that do that, like 8 Airs, Freeman, Sundown at Granada, they're holding that part down strong.
Right.
But it seems like those stepping stones from going, like the stepping stones up to a residency where you practice a lot.
Right.
And then the stepping stones between like residency and like Granada Theatre stage.
Right.
It's like those are getting harder and harder.
That's where it's happening.
Yeah. And, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's, I used to think like lack of physical stuff was making it harder for people to get excited about local things.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's it. That feels like a cop-out answer,
I mean, it could be. The kind of juxtaposition between having physical product, which you, like you said, have to spend money on, and just the digital. I mean, people do like to leave with something in their hands, at least a T-shirt, I
feel like every show I've been to, you would see that. If a good band was on stage, immediately people went and bought merch.
Yeah.
And, I don't know, but it seems like there's that disconnect right now between, well, how do you think you heard about some of the bands around here other than being in a band?
I mean, a lot of the time, it I think is going to see a band that you know and like, and they have an opener or a headliner that you haven't heard of, and you're like, oh, okay, those guys were killer. A lot of word of mouth. People are friends with people who like this band or are in this band. That's how I heard of what are they called? Brave Little Howl.
Oh, yeah. Dude, I love them.
It was just like everybody that I was friends with that were musicians loved them. And I was like, who is, I just keep hearing y'all talk about them. And we went to see them and I was like, yeah, it's amazing. I get it.
Yeah.
And then we've played on bills with them and stuff like that. So, I mean, I think that's generally.
I mean, I asked because, you're talking about Brave Little Howl. Like, I produced this record for them.
Oh, that's right.
It's just a live record. I'll give you a copy when you leave if you want it. But they're one example of this crazy talent pool we have around here.
Right.
I mean, it's crazy.
It is.
Some of the talent here that is unknown on like a national level, like you think of these spots, right? Like, okay, so we talked about 8 Airs, Freeman, Sundown at Granada, and we're leaving out, what is it, Revelers Hall over there, Bishop Arts, and it's like, I'm sure I'm leaving out other spots. But you can go in there on most weekends and see somebody who's a phenomenal musician at something.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's a local person who's just like
Yeah, I do this
trying to get by.
Yeah, right. I do this on the weekends.
Yeah, and you're thinking, and that's what I mean. It's like you're thinking, what is the disconnect here?
Right.
That like, even like you said, a band like Brave Little Howl. It's like we have seen those shows.
Right.
We know they are killer.
Yeah.
We know they're better than a lot of headliners that come through town.
Absolutely.
On labels.
They actually have songs,
Yeah, and they are not the only example here of that.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, man, why is it so difficult? It seems like you've got Charlie Crockett and Leon Bridges who had these freak out, breakout moments that are almost unheard of these days, But like, what do you think it is? Like, if you could snap your fingers and change something, what do you think would help?
Hey, boy, I think about this a lot. I do think that there's got to be a way. You got to get out there and show your stuff to people on the road, and I feel like that is just such a brutal process monetarily.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly, I guess, monetarily, but also just booking is very difficult. I've run into it constantly throughout my career thus far. And so a lot of the people that do break out or have more success, I think, end up having like a team or somebody that kind of is working with them that makes that process a little bit easier. And it's hard to come by because, at the end of the day, it's like those medium-sized clubs, like they have to pay rent,
Yeah, that's the hard part, right? Is they need to sell the tickets, but they want to give you opportunities, but they need to sell the tickets.
So somewhere in there, and you can't always count on getting people out. And then especially, so like, let's say you're leaving Dallas and you go to Little Rock or something like that. If you've never played there before, even just getting the booking is going to be tough.
Mm-hmm.
But then let's say you do and you don't play to anybody, like, are they going to have you back? Or, when can you afford to do that again and stuff like that? That's, I think, continually the aspect of it that I run into that it's just hard to figure out, hard to conquer, hard to, finagle into a way that makes sense. In a way.
Are you meeting any other musicians in other scenes? Like, do you feel like you can still foster that, like, hey, we'll put you on a show down here with, 2 or 3 of us that we know can pack it out and then return the favor where you go out to Arkansas, like you said, and they just put you in that great spot right before the headliner as the out-of-town band.
Yeah, it does happen. We've had some buddies. Even just, obviously, Texas is so big and our cities are just so big even compared to a lot of cities in other states. So like just getting down to Austin kind of feels like going to a different state because it's a whole different scene. And obviously they don't care about Dallas-Fort Worth all that much in Austin.
Right.
But yeah, we've had some buddies who would do that for us, and we did that for them. And we played before them at a place in Austin, and then they came up to Dallas and played double wide with us. And some people in Nashville, same thing, and stuff like that. So
did you feel like you were getting what you wanted out of those things? Like what you were talking about, like being able to get booked at a show with a crowd and make those connections? I mean,
it always depends, but I think so. And at the end of the day, like the camaraderie or the friendship that you foster with these other bands that are working and trying to do the same thing, I think that's invaluable, whether there's people there or not, because you can build off that and you can, support each other and at least see like, okay, they're, trying to do it. And I know given the chance, they'll lift us up just like we would do the same for them when the time comes and stuff like that. So
how much of your catalog is released through State Fair?
Everything thus far. Yeah.
So do you get to have these conversations with them? Like, do they give you their concept of like, here's what we got to do? Yeah.
I mean, a lot of my even perception or ability to do any of this is kind of through the years of friendship that I've had with the folks at State Fair, seeing them kind of work with Josh and develop his first record. I was like, okay, this is how it's done, and they're figuring it out too. Because it was the first like big record that they'd put out. And getting PR, all that sort of thing, showcases, like booking key shows when your album comes out in different places and stuff like that. But yeah, it's constantly, I think, a discussion of just like how to make this work for everybody.
Right.
Because obviously they've got a stake in it too. And have gone out on a limb for music, which...
Yeah, I mean, for people that don't know, it's like even and I'm not saying that's what they are, but I'm just saying even if you are a very unproductive label, right, the amount of time and money it takes to be a bad label.
Yeah.
It's like you got to love it or you wouldn't do it at all.
For sure.
Because there is not, like there are so many easier ways to get rich than music right now.
That's what Scott Davis, one of the co-founders of State Fair, says that all the time.
Oh, really?
Like,
Okay,
I'm not in it, obviously.
Yeah.
I just love music and love the music around here and want to, foster that.
Yeah, it's something I think about a lot because I get worried that we're going to have all these great artists just kind of pass us by.
Right.
There's a generation of phenomenal music in DFW right now. Not even just Dallas.
Yeah.
But like, do you get to get out to Fort Worth much?
As much as possible.
I mean, so you know the heavy hitters out there.
Yeah,
it's like these guys like
there's some incredible stuff.
Matt Tedder, Garrett Owen, Hayden Miller. And it's like
I don't know Hayden.
You should check out the album he put out. It's like it's another one. It's like I don't know what kind of makes it a sleeper, but it's this. Oh my God, I'm gonna. Sorry, Hayden, I'm forgetting his band. His band is Dead Vinyl.
Oh, okay.
And they're he hates that I say it probably, but they're kind of like a band's band around here too.
Okay.
Like it's just like
I know that name. Yeah,
it's like a rock and roll thing. But the album he put out, totally different. It's almost got like this Elton John rock vibe to it.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah,
really fun and great album, great production.
Yeah,
and I mean it's being listened to, but you just feel like
shouldn't
this be on the road?
Yeah.
Like I hear some of the.
If we're talking about Zach Bryan, we should be talking about some of these. Garrett Owen, one of the best guitarists and songwriters in the land.
The dude's got the perfect amount of weird and talent.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
It's like the way he decides to play something or the melody he decides on, it's like you got to have a little bit of strange to get that.
For sure, yeah.
Because the average player doesn't think that way,
He's writing like symphonies or something, but it's all him on a guitar and it's
beautiful.
Crazy. Yeah.
Just and then, again, it's like I hope people don't just pass by on all these brilliant artists around here.
I mean, I do think the good thing about all those guys and a lot of the folks I know is that much like, if you're running a record label, like there's something inside of them that won't let them not do it, Like it's happening regardless. And if you hear it and like it, then you're lucky to be a part of it, So hopefully, everybody keeps doing it because I love all of them. And
I almost feel like I want to get the ball rolling on something, but I'm not 100% sure what it is yet.
Yeah.
But you just feel like, I keep talking to these different artists and people in the area, and it's like you'll hear them come up with a great idea, and it's like, okay, I think you need to do that, and I need to do this, and you need to do that, and we need to start collectively becoming the things that don't exist here.
Yeah.
Like I was considering, like, should I make just like a compilation vinyl?
Right.
Right. You guys throw your song on, whoever else, do your solo work, whatever. That way, when you're at a show, you can sell a vinyl, make a little money, but everybody else is getting a little bit of, exposure as well. And it's hard to figure out, that whole time and money versus what's going to really be beneficial.
Yeah.
But it definitely seems like we should be having an annual festival of some kind around here.
For sure.
The Deep Elm Arts Festival is great, but it's a real broad focus.
Yeah.
It seems like we need some like in a dream world, it'd be like, we're going to do the I'm a Fan Of festival, and these are like my top picks. Like, here we go. And we just do a lottery to see, who's playing what, who's headlining, like just totally random and fair. And it's like, hey, you're headlining.
Right.
Let's make this a killer set, all right?
Go for it, man. That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I love that idea. I think anything like that helps. It certainly does.
What's something you would want to do?
You
thought about spearheading a project that's not just playing in a band,
I've been involved in a lot of different things from different people over the years. Like people have talked about apps and stuff like that. But I feel like something like an event is I always go to performance. I always go to like, what is it that people really want? And they want to have a great experience somewhere. Yeah. And something different to do, especially this is a drinking town. So people, they go out and spend it at the bars. Why not give them a cool thing to go to? We've been a part of, several years, we were a part of Texas Music Revolution up in McKinney that...
I'm not familiar with that one.
KHY, 95.3 The Range.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They put that on. And it kind of feels like that, It's like they do it in the square of downtown McKinney and have a bunch of different bands. It's definitely a country centric sort of thing because that's what they play on the radio.
Right.
But it always felt like that. It's like, you get to know all the different acts and they're all coming kind of from all over. But and then they got a few headliners, like Ray Wiley Hubbard and Charlie Crockett and things like that. And it felt like a little mini South by Southwest or something like that, where you could go and discover something new, but you'll also see something that you love that you already knew. And stuff like that. But I think that's a great idea and a great place to start.
Yeah.
So you're onto it. You're there.
Yes, man. It's the only thing that even makes me hesitant on anything like that is just the inexperience
Well, yeah.
of, like you don't want to flounder so hard that like the next time somebody does something, even if it's not me, people are like, no, the last time it was shitty.
Right,
and,
right.
It's like you
don't
just
want
want to
fire
make
fest.
you want, yeah. You just want to make sure that if somebody's going to like spend that money, devote a Saturday or whatever,
Right.
that they feel like, hell yeah, that
I
was
got all that I
worth it.
could out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and like across the board, it's like you want the artist to feel that way too,
Right.
right? Because that's usually
Yeah. A lot of things to take care of, and you got to rent porta potties or whatever.
yeah, that's the bigger thing is probably the inexperience. And so my wife and I, we talk about it. And we kind of go back and forth on. It's like, well, do we want to try to do like a small thing at a venue first, like try to just put on a show, learn our lessons, the things we don't know that we don't know.
Yeah, it can grow, it can change,
go that way, and I don't know.
It's just nice to hear somebody thinking about it, honestly.
I mean, what is something that you would personally want to do? That you feel like there's a gap where you're like, I like this. I miss this. I could do this.
I do. It's something Kessler does, I guess, kind of to some degree, in that they'll have, like at Americana Fest in Nashville, they'll do like a little Texas showcase or whatever from artists that they like that have played Kessler or that they know through that. And I feel like showcasing it in different places is really beneficial and cool and making it a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what like the silver bullet necessarily would be.
I don't think there's any one thing. I just think we all have to find like a little thing that we're passionate about.
Right.
Like you were talking about how you were cutting your teeth like doing song swaps at All Good.
Yep.
And it's like maybe it's time for Nathan to start hosting
the
song swaps somewhere.
I wouldn't be opposed.
I mean, you have the connections now in terms of, you're in this position like you've earned your place in the local scene. Other artists know who you are. There's a little bit of clout there where if you organize something, I think people would show up and be a part of it.
Billy Law did an open mic for a while, crowd control at sundown. It was usually on the rooftop, and that was really cool. And we met a lot of great people through that. And it did sort of foster like a little scene. But I think around COVID is when it stopped.
Yeah,
a lot of that sort of thing we have to bring back now. Even 4 years on.
Because there's a lot of people that just dropped out. They're like, they took it as the sign. I'm done.
This has been tough, It'll be even tougher now, but
and like I hate to say it, but it's like artists in general, it's like it's real easy to depress them and think that it's easy, like it's all over.
It's an emotional bunch for sure.
Yeah, and to like get them back on and back excited. Yeah, you're right, man. I'm sick of blaming it on COVID. You're 100% correct, but it's like, okay, we're 4 or 5 years out now. Yeah. It is time to go.
Yeah, we did justifiably, I think, lose a lot of things during that period and after that period. But yeah, it's you got to bring it back.
We can build it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They will come.
Well, your solo album, that was it 2022 or 2023?
23, August.
23. Did you have it ready to go, but you delayed it for the pandemic, or was that?
Kind of.
Yeah.
I think we recorded, 2021. And then just because of
so
COVID.
You're right in that. Yeah. Oof.
Because of COVID and because of like State Fair Records, one of the co-founders, he passed away in early 2022. So it just kind of put a huge...
Was it random or was that COVID related?
Not COVID related.
Okay.
Yeah, very sudden.
Yeah.
He had been having some heart issues and it was related to that, but it was, one day fine and next day gone. So I think that just really affected a lot of the people. John Pettigo produced my record and these two records. And he was good friends with him, and we all were. He was my mentor and one of my good friends, and my wife's like best friend.
What was his name?
Trey Johnson.
Trey Johnson.
He was in a band called Sorta back in the late '90s, early 2000s. So it was pretty big.
Well, if he was running that record label, like good on him.
Yeah,
appreciate the work.
He's
Trey.
certainly somebody who cared a lot about just the music. But yeah, so that, impacted things and coming off COVID, trying to figure out how, what was safe and how to do things, delayed it significantly. And then
I can't remember, did you get to do like, like a proper release show and everything by that time?
Yeah, Revelers Hall, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I wanted to keep
I'm upset that I missed that.
Well, it was...
I'm sure that place is packed.
It was packed, yeah.
That's another one of those. It's got that Prophet Bar vibe. Yeah. Very different, but...
Right. I like that there's no stage there. It's like we're just on the floor,
I love that you can walk in that front door and it's just bam, there's
Yeah.
a band
You're
right
getting
in
blasted.
your face.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Right.
are you going to be a part of this or not?
Uh-huh.
Like,
Yeah. There's the dance floor. You're already on it.
yeah, and like most people are just like, hell yeah, I'm a part of it, whatever it is. And they
People
do a
buy
great
in.
they do a great job of making sure the caliber of artists performing are solid.
For sure, yeah.
I mean, the last person I saw there was Jake Quillen,
Oh, yeah.
and just doing a little 3-piece.
We've played with him. We did a tour of Deep Ellum a couple years ago.
Okay.
And he played one, we played at Twilight, and he played his own set, and then he played a song with us, which was awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, he's incredible.
Another one of those, man. It's like kind of like Garrett. It's like the right amount of strange.
Yeah, no doubt.
I
No
love
doubt.
the weirdness that comes with
And
Jake.
He can play.
Dude, I mean, I liked his playing, but I figured he was a better player than I realized because I heard a couple people. Like I said, there's always some musicians that are downers, and I heard some people talking shit, like doing the like, oh, you know, he's getting this shine that he doesn't deserve kind of talk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. Usually when people do that, I'm like, I need to go check them out.
Yeah, right. I'm in.
Like if they're hating
Well,
on him, it must be pretty good.
Yeah, and then that gives him the chance to prove it, like
Well, and when I came
back
in,
it up.
well, and he was on the show. I got to watch him a little bit and listen to his music, but I didn't get to see him do that at Revelers Hall, where it's like, you know, the front door's always open, so the venue's like a little warm and humid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's
Sweaty.
a little tipsy or whatever,
Right.
and you know, there's that South Dallas feel.
For sure.
I don't know even how to describe it. It's
Yeah.
different than the Greenville Avenue feel. It's different than the Deep Ellum feel.
Yep.
There's a feel down there. And watching him, you know, do his thing where he's playing his music, but then he covers a, you know, like a Jimi Hendrix song.
Right.
And I knew he was a fan.
Yeah.
But then you watch him play and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, he's
you're like a fan. Like
Yeah,
you're
right.
you're really into this, man.
Yeah.
and again, you feel that genuine love.
Right.
And like there's no stage. You're on the floor.
Yep.
Somebody can walk by and kick that microphone into his teeth accidentally.
Right. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like
drop
it's
their drink all over him.
I
yeah.
mean, you know. And again, just the right amount of weird. But just another great example of like what there is to offer around here.
Yeah,
the
for
list
sure.
the list goes on.
Yeah, it's out there.
Speaking of great though, man, we were talking about your record. How was the album art chosen? Because that is a beautiful record cover.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Well, I was always averse to ever putting my face on a record cover. But
Why is that?
I don't know.
Insecurity,
Insecurity, perhaps,
insecurity.
yeah.
Yeah.
And also, you know, you want to have the opportunity to showcase like beautiful art or photography or whatever it is, somebody else's talents other than my own. Because obviously, if you're going to listen to the record, you're just listening to me.
Mm-hmm.
But John Pettigo is like, this is like a kind of classic feeling album. Like you got to put your face on it.
Yeah.
And so I'd done these. Do you know Josh Jordan? Josh David Jordan.
I
He
don't think so.
local filmmaker.
Okay.
He'd be a great interview.
Okay, I'll check it out.
He's done This World Won't Break is a movie he put out a few years ago, and he's working on his next one. But
Okay.
he had taken all these photos, promo photos, because you got to have that part of the album rollout and stuff like that. And so I was like, all right, well, I've got these, and so sort of narrowed it down to the one that was. And then actually Pettigo, he's a man of many talents, and the guy who made this album art did the logo for me for that.
Okay.
And then Pettigo made it kind of that neon thing and made it look the way it is. But yeah, I'm proud of how it
Are we
turned
talking
out.
about two different covers?
Maybe. What are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
From a Dark Corner is my record.
Well, I'm just going to look it up while we're
Okay.
talking here. But
There's a lot out there, so who knows?
yeah, okay, yeah. We are talking about the same thing. I forget that neon writing's there.
Yeah.
I think of the floral, and I think
Yeah,
of
yeah.
the suit. Like I think of that stuff so much that I genuinely forgot the writing was
Well,
there.
no, that's
But you know what it gave me when I first saw it? I don't even know why, but it gave me like Dwight Yoakam feels.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I can dig that. I was kind of going for like a almost Vegas
Okay, yeah.
sort of. I don't know, but
Well,
something along those lines.
He's got that unique thing. Like he's a country musician, but there's a little more there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And I've always liked how he just kind of like he did his own little thing no
Right.
matter what.
The blazers but then the hat and the tight jeans and all
Yeah,
that. He's got
I mean,
a look.
even what's that big hit where it's not really a guitar solo, it's just boom, boom, boom. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't.
Oh man, it's thus. Oh, we're not going to play it on here because it'll get
Yeah.
dinged, but I'll show you later. But it's just this droning, like
Mm-hmm.
just bending guitar in a verse, and then it just goes up a little bit, bends more and more, and that's it. And there's vocals in between, and it's just this awkwardly, lazy feel.
Yeah.
That if you did it in a studio, producers would be like, "Come on, we got to
Yeah, right. Play more than 2 notes.
Yeah. But there's just that feel to it.
I've
But
always
anyway,
loved that sort of thing.
but that's kind of vibe I picked up when I saw that artwork. There's people who make those like country albums, like I'm country.
Yeah. Railroad tracks and acoustic guitar.
Yeah,
They're still doing it.
and it's like I don't even know you, man, but I feel like I don't know. He that's what he wants to wear. It wasn't for this album.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and so yeah, I liked it a lot, man.
It's always with all of it. I think there's a sort of presentation that I think should kind of go along with the music to some degree. So yeah, that was kind of the feel and the character that I wanted to portray with with that collection of songs.
It definitely feels like it was your chance to like show this mature, refined side from all of your growth.
Yeah.
Right? It's like Ottoman Turks is fun.
Yeah,
It's
right.
a fun band.
That's the
right?
goal.
Yeah, and this lets you go like, here's these other songs I can write as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, certainly. I mean, it's all just whatever comes out, but
Yeah.
certainly it is more about, more directly about, I guess, just life and growing up. Certainly, going from 15 years ago when you're a teenager and going into college to now being an adult trying to figure it all out and sort of what comes out of that.
Yeah.
When
you're writing music for these projects, right?
Mm-hmm.
For your solo work for Ottoman Turks, do you find yourself having to think about like, I would like to write an Ottoman Turk song, I would like to write a Nathan song, or do you start playing things and you just decide, I feel like this fits over here more?
It's kind of the latter, I'd
Yeah.
say. It's because it is whatever comes out. You've got a thought or a feeling that you want to get across, or a phrase or something that pops into your head, and a lot of the time the content of the song helps decide. Like this feels like it needs this sort of feel to the music, whether it's slower or more folky or more rock and roll.
Mm-hmm.
But then sometimes there's ones that can go either way, and there's certainly songs that have started out intending to be like a solo tune that I'm like, I don't know, there might be an Ottoman Turks version of this that maybe is suits it more or something like that. But it kind of depends.
Yeah.
There've certainly been songs that we've sort of traded,
Mm-hmm. You said you guys are already talking about getting back in and recording a third one for Turks.
Yep.
Does that mean you also have some? I mean, it seems like you're writing a high volume of things right now. Are you
trying to.
preparing for that next solo record as well?
Yeah, definitely.
Jesus, man,
we recorded.
That's a lot of work.
It is, yeah, but it's fun. I mean,
I'm happy you're doing it.
Yeah, well, thank you.
You know,
it's fun to. I feel like I'm in a better place when I'm keeping myself in that place, and my wife, thankfully, is very. She helps facilitate that because she can tell. When I'm down in the dumps about it, I'm like, I just don't even. She's like, all right. I'm going to be out of the house today, whatever. You're writing music or you're playing guitar at least. And lately I've just been trying to do that. And stuff's coming out, we'll see if it's good when we go into the studio. But
she an artist of any kind?
She's definitely more on like the business side of things. She, thankfully, because I'm all over the place and she's able to,
Was it hard to, I play guitar, I've been in bands. It's like I always have an artistic itch, right? And my wife, she's a very artistic woman, but she doesn't have any hobbies. Like she doesn't have the desire to go do the artistic thing.
Right.
She likes to admire artistic things,
Yeah,
right? But
I'd say Courtney's similar.
okay,
Yeah.
So did it take a while for you to appreciate, like, it's hard for them to understand that I need to do like 3 hours of what looks like nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
How did that go with y'all's relationship? Was it in the dating phase or the marriage phase?
Yeah, well, so we got married very quickly, like within a year.
Okay.
And we were 22. So we did a lot of growing up just together trying to figure out, and a lot of that was a part of it, trying to figure out, like, is it worthwhile to pursue this music thing? And then, once we determined it was, obviously, something that was very important to me, how to make that work, and being realistic about it, instead of just, sitting around. Because there's a way to approach it intentionally, and there's a way to just kind of have it be a part of your life. And I think she always appreciated it more when I did approach it intentionally. And as soon as I start doing that, I think she's all in, you know.
So give me an example of like how you used to approach it versus how you approach it now.
Like in college, for Turks, you know, like everybody would come over. We all lived, everybody except Josh lived in one house in Bryan College Station. And so Josh would come in town and we'd, you know, hang out and goof off and do, well, meanwhile our, you know, instruments are sitting right there. And so after a while, Courtney's like,
it's all part of the process.
Yeah, right. We're writing right now as we drink our 7th beer. So yeah, like that was definitely a thing where it's like, listen, if y'all are going to do this, you can't just keep talking about doing it. You got to actually do it and like get in there and get better. And so yeah, that sort of thing, which I think is a great, you know, I'm very thankful for it because it certainly helped me figure out just if I really want something, you know, how to go get it instead of expect it to come to me or just happen eventually.
Yeah.
I'm a procrastinator, you know?
Yeah.
But
true musician, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it definitely feels a lot better to actually just, you know, try for something. And
yeah, it's interesting. Do y'all have any kids?
No.
No.
A dog.
Dog? Hey, that's, you know, I tell people it's like when you have like something that depends on you, like an animal or something, when you have a spouse and then when you have a kid, it's like there's these tiers of getting shit done.
Yeah.
Like now I look back of when I had no one depending on me and it's like, how did I think I was busy back then?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
What was I even doing? I don't even remember.
Because now, like you were talking about kind of intention, it's like now when I know it's like, okay, I have these 2 hours, I'm going to try to accomplish these things.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And it's like, even just with this, it's like there's always like editing in the background. It's like, I'm going to edit all this. It takes about 45 minutes to process. I'll let that process while I'm doing this other thing, you know?
Yeah, staying busy.
And yeah, but it's like, man, if I had just known I could, you know, work this way when I had free time.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just a whole nother level. But who you said Pedigo produced your solo work?
Yeah.
How did you decide like the who's playing on that album?
It was, you know, it's kind of like just even putting a bill together or whatever. You know, there's certain people that you get to know that I think you think would vibe well or could play the things that you're bringing into the studio.
Who was playing on it?
So Trey Pendergrass.
Okay.
He drums for Josh and drummed for John Pedigo and Pedigo's Magic Pilsner. And so I've seen him play a bunch, and he's incredible. And kind of gets, I think, the weird mix of country and folk and rock and roll, the things that I like to do. And then Billy Law was an easy choice for the bass.
Sure.
And then there were a couple bass parts that, like, you know, we wanted to stand up, which isn't his thing. So we had Steve Berg from 1100 plays stand up bass, and he was around, and so we called him in to overdub those parts. And it's just like, it's, I guess, a lot of looking at for the drum and bass specifically, like, okay, we have these songs, let's get these down. You want the rhythm section to be locked in, and you can add anything else on top of that. So then after that, it's a question of what does the song need? You know, like I hear a little bit of fiddle, or I hear a little bit of pedal steel. Certainly is very important on my solo record. And
how was that working? Because, you know, the way you write this music with the Turks, very different. The way you record, very different. When you came in knowing, you know, I have this vision, did you decide, you know, how you're going to communicate that? And was that the way it went down, or did it have to be adjusted?
There was a lot of adjustment, especially just because for the solo stuff, I was coming in with like 50 songs.
Okay.
So having to pare that down.
Man, you're just writing.
I mean, you know.
Good for you. Keep it up.
Thanks. A lot of them are like super old, and I'm like, well, but it's here, so like let's take a look at it and see if it's worth, you know, recording or marking down. And then even the songs that we did choose, it's like, okay, so, you know, I wrote this, you know, whenever, and have been playing it this way, but is there a way to play it differently or make the song better? So there was a lot of intentionality with all that John Pedigo was a big help with. And he was very present for all of that sort of process, because it's also really tough to, like anything, I'm on the inside looking out, you know, and you need that outside in perspective. And so he was able to provide that. And so we kind of went from there.
Were you playing like, you know, just stuff you kind of recorded on like your phone or a laptop, or were you sitting down with a guitar playing it for him, or
bit of both?
Yeah.
I did demos.
What did you prefer?
That's a good question.
Both are like real.
They're different.
vulnerable in their own way.
Right.
And they're both very awkward in their own way.
Yeah. I still...
Even amongst friends and people who know the process.
I still get nervous before shows, but I think a long time ago I was thankfully able to sort of give up the you don't want to hear it. I'm like, well, I guess it kind of goes back to,
it's not very good.
It goes back to that intentionality thing. I'm like, well, if I want to do this, I got to at least be able to play it in front of the guy who's going to produce the record or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
And I love singing, so, and doing it with friends is the best. So,
Yeah.
I don't think that was too difficult, but yeah, sometimes I'm like, this song is shitty, but here you go anyway. Because you never know what somebody else is going to hear in it that you don't necessarily hear in it. You come in with your own conceptions about it.
Well, gosh, how many times do you hear that from some mega famous band that the biggest song they ever had was an afterthought and just one that they kind of flung out there?
It's almost like the norm.
Yeah, and the one they cared about the most just was nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing at all. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Did what were his how would a process go? What was a reaction when you're like, okay, here's a song I'm working on? Is it usually yes, no, or let's work this out a little bit? How was it kind of going for you?
I feel like,
because I'm sure the songs were in very different form. Compared to now,
acoustic. You present it differently. But a lot of, you can always tell, especially with Pedigo, he's like, yeah, that's a winner. That'll work. And then sometimes he's like, I'm not convinced on that one, but you seem to really like it. So, let's see what we can do with it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I could never get it to where he liked it. And then it's up to me to say, I have a feeling for this song that I want to include it either just for my own sake, because I want to get it out there, or because I feel like there's something there to it, And then other times we're able to kind of meet in the middle and be like, well, what if we put took out one of the, I'm notorious for writing bridges. I can write bridges all day long. There's 2 bridges in this song. You only need one. There was a lot of that going into the solo record, but so things like that,
Yeah. Was there anything where you were just like, no, this is how it's going to be done?
Yeah, a couple times. Yeah.
I think about that a lot, man. I find myself gravitating towards musicians who, I don't want to say break the norm, because it's not like they're reinventing anything.
Right.
Sturgill Simpson's a good example.
Yeah.
Guy just kind of does what he wants, right?
Absolutely.
And it's his big album, Sailor's Guide to Earth.
Right.
It's my favorite song on there. It's I'll hear these people. I recently sent a little demo around to some friends. It's been a long time since I've played, recorded.
That's
and
exciting.
I'm getting that itch.
Yeah.
I got these. It's kind of like you're talking about. It's I got these songs. They don't seem to be going away. I thought it was just we'll be a little playful here. My playing time is gone. I don't want to do that anymore. And now I find this theme creeping in of something I might want to work on. It's fuck, I guess we're going to do this.
Right. We're in.
And then the gut check is I got to send it to some people and say, I've been thinking about this, because then I'll feel embarrassed if I don't do anything.
Right.
And it's my way of holding
accountability.
myself. Yeah. And so you start getting advice, you start getting things these things feel too specific, these things should be broad and that kind of stuff. But then I think about my favorite song on that Sturgill album is the one that has no choruses, and he sings about his experience in the Navy. And it's very specific terminology, even within the Navy, that the average person doesn't even understand. It's a song called Sea Stories.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm, I do.
And it's I had to go look up all the Navy terminology that I didn't understand. And some of the lyrics are those Pacific Island nations and cities and stuff, and you're just if you had taken that to a traditional producer, they would have been like, this is too specific. It
this
never
isn't a
worked,
hit.
blah, blah, blah. Right. And I've heard him do it on that record, and then he changed it into that bluegrass version, which is really great too. And it's we went and saw him at a big show, and people are singing those lyrics. And it's
right. It's funny.
I don't think that matters, does it?
Yeah.
And so, but then you hear these stories of these great producers that just gave all this advice like that, and it did make the song better.
Right.
And it's man, it's I just forgot, even dipping back into it for a minute, you realize it's God, this shit's so hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard to just make a bad song.
It's so subjective. Yeah. Yeah. At some point you got to trust your gut, You never know what'll resonate. And some of my favorite Tom Waits songs or whatever have very strange specific references that once you do, either you ascribe your own meaning to them that could be completely far off from whatever was intended when he wrote it, or you do digging and find out what it actually means or whatever, and then it opens up the song. But I like a little bit of layers.
Yeah.
I mean, Bob Dylan, who knows what he's talking about most of the time? I don't even know if he knows what he's talking about.
Did you ever watch that that great documentary?
The Scorsese one?
Yeah. Where it's like 8 hours, right?
Yeah.
And I think he was typing something with, like, he was hanging out with maybe like Joan Baez. I think that's, anyway. And he wrote something up, and they're like, "Oh, this is great. What's it about?" He's like, "I don't know."
Yeah.
He's like, "They'll find meaning, and they'll tell me what it's about,"
right.
and like all this kind of shit.
I am the walrus.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's interesting, man. I didn't think I'd want to write songs again, and I still don't know if I'm sold on it. But
I mean, it's always there, though. That's the nice thing about it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's a nice thing. Sometimes you really hate it.
Well, yeah, tell me about it. Yeah.
You know what's been getting me excited about is our son. He's 4, and he's digging music. It's I'll play guitar around the house, and we bought him like a real cheap ukulele, and he'll be like, "Can I play my guitar?" I'm like, "Yeah,
you can."
And of course, he's just hitting these strings, just slamming it down. You're like, "That's perfect, man. Keep doing that." And because it's like you really want them to love music,
right?
But if you force it,
it comes to them eventually. I think it certainly did for me. You know, it took me a long time to find stuff that do you remember
those days when you were thinking like, I like music. This is music.
Yeah,
this is my like.
Definitely.
What was that? That was before Green Day, right?
It was around the Green Day period. I think that was the first time that there was just like it was a band that I was like, okay, I want to know everything about this. I like all the, I need to know, like, diving deep.
When you came in on that album, what did you think when you found the previous albums?
I loved those too. It's like a whole different thing, but you're kind of reverse engineering.
Yeah.
I think I did go from American Idiot back to Dookie and then kind of piece my way in between. But
yeah, because, bands that have been around that long, it's like, it's 3 different versions of that band.
Right. Yeah.
3 different versions of fans, and all these fans are like, no, this is the best one.
Yep. Yeah. I think there's value in all of it, probably. But
for sure, yeah.
Actually, the newest Green Day record that came out this year is incredible.
I haven't listened to it yet. I'll have to
so
check
good.
it out. I mean, people can hate on them all they want, but come on.
Yeah, they're legit. They're OGs.
Dude, they're incredible.
Yeah.
And if they came through town, I would want to watch them.
They're coming in September, and I really want to go.
Are you going to go?
It depends on ticket price. It's like them and Smashing Pumpkins, and so I'm sure, and like AAC, so tickets are going to be insane. But
yeah, I got obsessed with, you know who it was? The lead guy for the Toadies.
Oh yeah,
Vaden. He was talking about when the rhythm guitar player for AC/DC died.
Mm-hmm.
He was apparently a huge fan of AC/DC, and he was talking about, like the rhythm guitarist.
Yeah.
And like the idea of like writing that lick.
Yeah.
And then when you think of the Toadies and the way their music sounds, a lot of lick, rhythm-driven, oriented songs, and a lot of riffs there. And so you start really, like, I started really thinking about guitar a lot.
Yeah.
And just the value of like, fuck, man, when you got a really underrated rhythm guitarist, but they're just cranking out that stuff, how it makes that song, right?
I mean, I consider myself a rhythm guitarist, chief, or first and foremost, and I love it. I think there's a lot of value.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, and because you're drifting in and out. Like, you're not quite the bassist and the drummer,
right?
You're not quite the lead, but
there's something else.
There's a glue there,
right?
To me, like something about Green Day, man. The way they could just make that iconic, like, this is that intro,
right?
Something as simple as, like, on the Dookie album, When I Come Around, just a hit, a basic hit. It's like nothing complicated about that, but man, they just dialed in the musicality of, like,
taking something very simple and making it very memorable.
I would get obsessed with Trey Cool's drumming.
Yeah,
the way he
incredible.
decided to use his kick drum.
Yeah.
For just to keep whatever they were doing together. Very, like, it's like he was playing that kick drum in a way so many other punk drummers had never played it.
Right.
In terms of, like, the kick's almost a melody.
Yeah, right. And that's what you remember. I mean, about it's the way the 3 of them came together really makes a thing. But yeah. It's amazing.
Just fucking 3 losers. They shouldn't be.
Should never have left the warehouse. Yeah.
And it's like, man, this. It's like how do how does a 3-piece with just power chords make it that far?
Right.
But it's just back to that timing and originality and luck, and
it's something like Josh is as his career's taken off, we faced a moment where, like, what does Ottoman Turks do now? And we got a trio gig, and we're like, we're going to try it out. And we were like, there's actually something here, there's something in the way that Paul and Billy play together that keeps the song going, that I can either play lead or rhythm and switch back and forth. And so we kind of had to figure out what makes a power trio work. And we've been doing that for a long time and really enjoy it. So
Well, how does that conversation go? Where Josh is having this success, but you guys want to do some more things with this, but like a lot of the industry is just lightning in a bottle,
right?
And you really got to jump in it. So when he starts having that success, how are you guys kind of talking about that as a band?
I mean, I guess it was always kind of simple for me in that I still love playing this music, and as long as the guys still want to do it with me, I still think there's something that we can explore there, and it helps that we got a lot of good feedback early on from the trio stuff. So we're like, well, we'll just keep doing it and figure that out, and I'll still writing songs, still playing new songs and stuff like that, and which it's a whole different thing now.
Yeah.
But still a lot of fun, and still Ottoman Turks, and
Yeah, but he's not like out of the band, is he?
I mean, we haven't played together. We played one festival where he played some of the songs, I think. But I mean, that's part of a discussion that I think we still have to kind of figure out.
Has it been discussed for the 15-year reunion show?
He's playing. We're doing a set of trio stuff, and then we're doing a set of like the OG, the classic Turk stuff, and he's going to come out for that.
I mean, if I was a betting man, I would think there's going to be I think that's going to be a very fun night for everyone involved.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
And there's just a magic that is part of projects sometimes that people maybe rekindle a little, and it's like, hell yeah.
Yeah,
I don't want to put too much pressure on anything, but
it's all fun, first and foremost.
Sure. Well, and I stopped forcing things, maybe over the last 5 years. Mm-hmm. It's like things are just going to line up when they're going to line up.
Right.
It's
believe.
Just going to work out that way. But well, I'm glad to hear that you guys will be piecing it together somehow for that. That'll be really fun. I made a bet with my wife that something's going to happen at this show, but I'm not going to tell you what it is because I can't sway the bet.
Let's just find out together.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I mean, knowing you've done 15 years with this band.
Yeah.
What do you think about like 15 more years with this band?
It's hard to imagine because I can't even imagine the past 15.
Yeah.
Especially, just, aging, I guess. But yeah, sure, why not? I say bring it on. There's still so much that I want to do with this band, and even writing songs for this new record is just so fun. Mm-hmm. Exploring new things and new ways of presenting the thing that we do. And every time I'm with, Billy and Paul, like we just have a blast. We just went on vacation together, actually, which was awesome. And we'd never done that before. Every other vacation that we'd taken was music related.
Right. So this was just a true go have some fun.
Yeah.
That's
we went
awesome.
like a beach vacation
with
the wives, and it was awesome. But yeah, it's so, as long as I'm still having fun with them, I'd say, keep doing it. And like we were saying earlier, what else are we going to be doing?
True. I mean, you had to get a little inspired when you see somebody like Pedigo. Mm-hmm. How long's he been in this scene? Longer than you?
Longer
than me, right?
Yeah. He started real young too, I think. So
yeah. Was he? I get people mixed up a lot, so my apologies. But
it's easy.
He was in the OCs as well, right?
The O's.
The
Yeah.
O's. The O's.
Yeah.
The OCs
Mm-hmm.
is the independent band. Yeah. The O's. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was my introduction to him.
Yeah. Mine too.
Okay.
Billy and I did we had a radio show at A&M.
Okay.
And we had them. They would come down and they would teach there was a music history class, and the teacher would have them come and teach.
Oh, that's cool.
Like a special day, and then they would have a show that night, and all the kids could come for free, I guess. It was like an extra credit thing.
Yeah.
And so one of those days we had them into our radio show to interview them.
Nice.
I don't think they answered a single we had questions written down. We're like, all right, those are out the window because they're just joking around the whole time. But then we went and opened for them, or I guess they opened for us because nature of them being a duo. Mm-hmm. And then Ottoman Turks after that, and it was a blast. So
I got to see the coolest show of them. I don't know that I'll ever see again, it was just timing and weirdness. Do you remember the city of West Texas?
Yeah, of course.
And the explosion?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I do.
So right after that explosion, there was a big benefit show that they tried to put on at not just the O's. It was somebody else put on this thing, but they were on it. And I don't remember if they were like second to last. I think maybe Jonathan Tyler headlined it.
That makes sense.
And they were like right before him. Mm-hmm. But Vaden from the Toadies did like an acoustic set and stuff.
That's cool.
But they were kind of at like peak O's.
Yeah.
Just like the pinnacle of kind of what they were doing at the time.
Yeah.
And that was probably the first two-piece I'd seen come out and just like rock hard.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? With
Yeah,
just
yeah.
acoustic, and it's just like, damn, that's like, I mean, I think they probably had the kick that one of them hit with their foot, right?
Yeah.
That was the
their thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
John played like a little whatever you call it, like a
was like a
lap
steel.
steel.
Yeah. And I just remember it was like that perfect. You know when you're watching a festival show and the sun's down just enough
Yeah.
that it's not dark, but the lights are working, but it's
Right.
got that cool sunset glow going
Yeah.
on the stage and everything. Because it was at that outdoor, the AT&T Performing Arts Center right by Clyde Warren Park.
Yep.
Yeah, and it was just
Strauss
like
Square.
yeah, and I was like, I don't think I'm ever going to see this band in a cooler setting than
Yeah.
this. I think this
One
is
of those
it.
magic. That's why you want to go see live shows. You never know.
I mean, just yeah. That's the big goal of mine right now. Is like, how do you foster that spark of like, you got to go because you don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
And the more of you that go to see, the more of that magic that just kind of exists.
Right.
Because it's like you get up on stage and you walk out there and it's packed.
Right.
It's like all of a sudden you can't even explain it. There's just a new feeling where you're like, oh.
Yeah. It's inspiring for
Oh,
sure.
I was going to bring my A game, but like, I think I have to bring a little more than that now.
A+, S. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially a place like Granada.
Right.
I mean, that's just a special.
Yeah.
It's one of the few places when I look at it, I'm like, I guess we won't change anything here.
Yeah.
I
Right.
think we just leave it alone.
What do you even do to it? Yeah.
Nothing, man. But no, I was talking about the O's because, do you get any inspiration in any way of like, you are now getting into a point of your veteranship in this scene as a guy like John Pettigo?
Right.
Well, it's like, okay, well, what roles are you going to take on?
That's a good question.
You were
It's a little weird
whether,
to think about.
Yeah, but whether you like it or not, you are a steward of this scene.
Yeah.
Right? It's like,
Well, I do. Yeah, I mean, as far as that goes, I take that very seriously, and always speak as glowingly as I genuinely feel about this scene and everybody in it. Certainly, I wouldn't be doing it still if not for the scene, and I want to be that to other people as well. So and yeah, people like Pettigo, all those older guys, like we've gotten to know sort of. Ken and Rhett. I did a little run with Rhett last year, and just all those people who have been doing it for so long, who started in the same place. I get like so much inspiration from that.
yeah.
And yeah, I guess I've never thought about it as being a few steps behind, but certainly if there's any sort of way I can pay that forward,
How many bands have been in this scene for 15 years?
I don't know.
You have more knowledge about this scene than you realize.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
true.
really think of the waves and the
Yeah.
iterations of the little pockets of
Right.
Dallas that you have seen come and go.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think are some of the biggest changes you've seen in an area like Deep Ellum?
Well,
Because you've seen at this point, I mean, that's maybe 3 different versions of Deep Ellum.
yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah. I grew up there. We moved there in like
So you've seen like
2003.
5 different
Yeah.
versions of Deep Ellum.
It was like a ghost town,
Yeah.
like it was literal.
Dude, I got
tumbleweeds.
swindled out of money in the parking lot when
Yeah.
I was 16.
That was that's
You know
a
what I'm
rite
saying?
of passage.
Yeah, dude. It's like you pull up. I'm over there at the parking lot off Good Ladder,
They're
by the
like,
7-Eleven.
You could park here.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, right up here, man. $5. And I was so ignorant, I grew up in a small town northeast of here, so we would drive in.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
And so ignorant where I'm like, you call the cops and you're like, I just got robbed. And they're like, actually, sir,
Yeah.
that's like, I can't remember what they called it. They probably said that's a swindle.
Yeah.
And, like, it's not a crime. Like, you gave them the money.
Right.
Like,
He asked and you gave. Yeah.
yeah. But,
The good old days.
Yeah. So, like, really think about how much you've seen that area alone change.
Yeah, it's crazy. When we were growing up, we're like, man, I wish there were people here. And, like a restaurant that we liked down there could stay alive for longer than 6 months. And now, obviously, it's wildly different. And it's a bit of a double-edged sword. But, when people talk about it and, like, being afraid of it and stuff like that, I'm always like, it at least is thriving.
Yeah.
To some degree.
I feel like it's not as dangerous as people think.
I agree.
I feel like the days we were talking about were much sketchier.
Absolutely. Yeah,
And like, you remember like the Gen X Deep Ellum people.
Yeah.
To me, I feel like that was the sketchiest that Deep Ellum ever was.
Yeah. There's a whole skinhead problem down there.
And like Gen X, like they want it to be that way.
Yeah.
Like, or I don't know about now, but they
Yeah.
were like, we don't want it to change.
Yep.
We like the grit. Like,
Which I get. I mean, you do lose something in inviting the places like what is it called, Bottled Blonde and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's a give and a take, and it has allowed, I think, some of the places that are still down there. I mean, Trees is still there.
Trees, man. I don't know anything about Trees. I don't know anything about the people that run Trees.
Yeah.
So I don't mean to be like disparaging or anything, but I've seen so many good shows at Trees. But I have no idea what they do nowadays.
Yeah.
I think they're more into like kind of a metal scene right now, aren't they?
It's a lot of metal. Yeah.
But I guess it's doing well. I don't know.
Yeah.
Some of my absolute best Deep Ellum memories were at Trees, though.
Yeah.
So
You're always trying to find a position where you're not blocked by the trees.
Yeah, man.
And the trees are still there.
They're still there. Well, I mean, and to think like the bands that have graced that stage. I mean, fucking Nirvana.
Yeah, that's all you have to say.
Nirvana was there.
Yep.
And it wasn't like before they were famous. It's like it was fucking
this is
Nirvana.
legit, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but Curtain Club was a similar venue.
Yeah, Curtain Club.
And it's gone.
And that's gone. Yeah.
Gone. And you just get worried, like, again, that's why I talked to you about like the steward of like,
Right.
And I put myself in that group. It's like, we are going to have to do things to make sure it doesn't completely go away.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because to think that, double wide, 3 links,
Mm-hmm.
free man, 8 airs, that it's all immune.
Yeah, it's not. We've seen that.
It
Yeah.
might not be, right? And it's like they're kicking now.
Right.
Do you think a place like 3 links with things like Bottled Blonde, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk. That's 2 very different.
Right. Clientele and everything.
Yeah. But do you think they have this great position, right, where the doors can be open? And
Right.
You hear this, do you think that they're pulling these people in who normally wouldn't go check that out?
It's a
do you
good
think
question. I think it happens. I don't
Yeah.
know if it happens like en masse, but I've seen it. We've played shows there that I've seen people like walk by and be like,
So I feel like the
and then they're
customer-
we could go in here, babe. I mean, you got to. It's the push and pull between. You got to keep ticket prices low enough that people want to do it. But then high enough that the venue's not losing money every single gig that they put on.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a sweet spot there. The Granada gig that we're playing is $15. It's important to try and make it accessible.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to spend $40 on a show every time I go out.
No. And I mean, and it's like, look, I'm going to buy drinks, right?
Right.
Drinks. I mean, come on. I wonder too, like, is there a world where the free show exists because we sell enough alcohol?
Yeah.
Or does the free show make it seem like it wasn't worth charging for and people don't want to watch it?
Right.
That whole gamble of like, do you put a $5 ticket, a 10, 15?
Yeah.
The psychology of like, what makes it seem worth it, I guess.
There's a lot of nuance there.
Yeah, man. But that's exciting to hear. What do you think is the most exciting thing that you've gotten pumped about recently in this area?
Oh, boy.
What gets you excited?
That's a good question. What have I even been doing lately? Well, I mean, it's been a little. We've been kind of on lockdown just because we're so focused on this and trying to write songs and things like that. So I haven't made it out as much as I would like to. One of our good buddies, David Forsyth, just put out his first EP this year.
Okay.
I
feel like I've heard the name, but I just don't know.
He's really, really an incredible songwriter. Kind of new to it, I think. He's always played guitar. But he writes really killer songs, and he did his album release at Sons of Herman, and it was just him or his band, and he had one solo guy that I'd never heard of, Open, who was like he looked like West Texas, like full cowboy gear, and sang these beautiful songs, and just the whole night at Sons of Herman, which is a gorgeous venue, was really magical, and I love David's stuff. I'm excited to see how it's been really well received. It seems like from other people. And
it's out right now?
Yeah.
I have to give it a listen
It's
then.
digital only. So.
That's fine. I'll give it a listen.
But yeah, it's really good.
Man, Sons of Herman Hall. Mm-hmm. I can't, I'm sorry, Sons of Herman Hall, but like I always forget about that place.
Really, yeah.
But then when I remember, I'm like, fuck, that's a great place.
It's kind of, you got to do it yourself there. I know they have shows.
It's a historical landmark now, right?
Yeah. It's over 100 years old.
I have secret dreams of like, I want money to buy that place and make it what it could be.
Yeah.
Because it's weird, like the way, Elm Street curves around. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's kind of difficult.
It's a strange little location, but I think that's partially maybe what's protected it all these years.
It's true. But there is a certain, there's a charm to that place, man.
Yeah.
The right musicians do really well there.
That's where I met my wife, technically.
Really?
Yeah.
What were y'all doing there?
Turks played, and I actually played in it wasn't. It was Billy Law's other band that doesn't exist anymore with some other high school friends, and I played drums because their drummer was sick. I do not play drums. It was a youthful, endeavor. But yeah, so played in 2 bands that night, and my wife, who was mutual friends with another friend of mine, they were going to come out. And they literally walk up as we're like loading out. And I was like, how do you miss both bands? So we started off on the wrong foot, but then quickly things turned around.
Do you think it would have been a bad idea for her to see your drumming, though?
Probably.
Like maybe it was better she showed up
The
late.
Lord blessed me that day, yeah.
Man, so that place is extra special to you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, man. The sundown at Granada is like that for my wife and I.
Oh, yeah?
We didn't meet there or anything, but like when I proposed, it's like that's the place we went to.
Right.
After the proposal to
that's a
like
big thing,
get a
yeah.
drink and just like, wow, we're going to do this, you know. And then we rented out the upstairs area for one of her birthday parties.
Cool. Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's like it just feels like a spot
It's
that
a
we
homey
always
place, yeah.
I don't know, just get connected. Maybe it's like the first maybe there and I don't even want to say the name of the next one because I don't want to ruin it, but I know you know where it is. Do you remember the you know what? It's the best dive bar over in East Dallas.
Oh,
very near where we're at right now. You know what I'm talking about?
I do.
Yeah.
Just being here, I'm tempted to go after this.
Yeah.
So.
That place and Sundown at Granada are like
Those are the
those feel like
those are good ones.
I mean, those are the only places that feel like maybe neighborhood bars to
Right.
us.
Yeah, yeah.
Like really where we feel like these are our people in
Yep.
our area,
Yeah,
you know? And the only other thing that gets close to that, I think, is for us anyway, is probably the single wide.
Yeah, I love single wide.
Love the
Yeah.
single wide. That's a place where I wish you could do like a really good open mic or something.
Yeah, yeah.
The only problem is where you would put the players is where the
that tiny little
the frozen machine is, where they make the yoo-hoos.
Well, so Josh and I actually had a Sunday night residency there
at Single Wide
for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
It
did
was
you
just
play up
us.
front there?
Uh-huh.
How did that go?
I mean, sometimes there were people there, sometimes there weren't, but we always had a good time and drank
that's
a lot
a
of
great
whiskey.
spot, though,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, we loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, some part of me would love to bring that back, but
Maybe this is what we're talking about.
yeah, maybe.
Maybe this is it, man.
Yeah.
Maybe this is where
Little
you do
single
your open mic, song swap.
Yeah.
Figure out if you like the patio, the back of the room, that front stage again. That place, man, single wide. I love double wide. Double wide's great.
Yeah.
But single wide's its
Different
own
thing.
beast.
Yeah, yeah.
Single wide to me feels like what America should be.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
You go into single wide and you'll see somebody in a full suit, right? And you'll see somebody in like Western wear,
Yep.
and then you'll see somebody with like a full like Liberty Spike mohawk.
Somebody who's might be homeless, you're not really sure, but yeah, right.
Yeah, and then like some sorority girls come in. It's like it is a mix of everyone.
It is, yeah.
And I don't think I've ever seen a true problem at that bar.
Yeah, I can't say. It certainly never happened on Sunday nights.
I mean, you ever seen a fist fight there or anything?
I haven't.
It seems like anytime you
It
bump
seems
into
impossible that that's the case. But,
not enough space, you hit the wall.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Maybe that's it. It's just you're hemmed in too much.
I think it's just something about that spot. Like, I think if you decide to go there, you're the type of person who, if you get bumped into, you're just like, oh, no problem.
Yeah, we've got that much room to move anyway.
It's expected,
so,
right?
yeah.
And it's like, man, if we could all just do this, I think we could fix all the problems.
That's a good point. I'd never thought of it that way, but that's certainly true.
I mean, really think about the group of people that goes there.
Yeah, it's diverse, for sure.
Man, like, anytime I walk in that bar, I want to chant USA.
Yeah, we did it. We fixed it. Yeah.
All it took was a white trash looking bar, right?
I mean, I think a dive bar could solve the world's problems.
Come on, man. Come on. You know, if we brought these people from the Middle East with all this aggression towards each other, you know, if we brought them over to Single Wide, a couple drinks.
We'll talk to Kim about it.
Relax, you know. We could do this, man. We could get world peace solved.
Just a yoo-hoo yeehaw. Yeah.
Look, as Dallasites, as Texans, we take it for granted.
Right.
But that drink is ridiculous.
It is, yeah.
And if you brought anyone in from out of state, out of town, and you served them that,
they'd be, sold.
well, and like, that's a core memory for them about Texas from now on.
Yeah, yeah.
That is a peacemaking drink.
Right.
Yeah. All right, man. I think that's what we figured out here tonight is you got to get something going at Single Wide.
Yeah, yeah.
This is your responsibility for world peace.
For world peace, yeah.
Well, let's get you out of here, man. Okay. I appreciate you swinging by.
Dude, thank you so much for having me.
Well, just, man, congratulations, dude. 15 years.
Thank you. Yeah.
In the music. That's fucking awesome.
I appreciate it.
I hope you're
crazy.
psyched about it.
Oh, I'm psyched.
As you should be. And that show's going to be incredible.
15 years and I still love it. So, yeah.
That's the key, man.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, man. And to 15 more, I guess, right?
Hey, that's right.
All right, dude.
Thank you. Hey, I'm a fan of I'm a fan of.
Oh,
so thanks for having me.
The I'm a Fan of podcast, music, comedy, and more.